Hello, everybody. So, guest hasn't popped up yet. I let him know yesterday and sent him a text this morning. So we'll see if he gets here. Might have had something happen. Who knows? But we'll see. If not, maybe I'll get one of you guys to come up here and be the guest for today. So who knows? We'll see what happens. Hello, pause. In effect. Hello, Ivy's Forge and Homestead. Like I said, thank you for being here. I understand. If you're just here to listen, that's cool too. Hello, Ford Man. Hello, Linda Okie. Hello, Burning Up the Roads. Hello, Box Van D. And let me pull them up here, actually. Sweet. Hello. Oh, hold on. Can't. Oh, there we go. Unmute you.
There you go.
There you are.
Can you hear me?
Sweet. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Nice to have you on here. This is Freddy Fri Motivation, everybody. Been talking to him for a little while. Been watching your videos, and I wanted to ask you about how it is to be on some videos that have like millions of views on them. Like, how is that? And are you recognized more from that than your music now?
You know, it's surreal, to be honest with you. With my music, it's basically a totally different fan base. You know, I have a huge following overseas with my music in places like Japan and Germany and places like that. So I have a really big following. But with the with the motivation, it was totally unexpected. Like now, I pop up on all types of montages of speeches that are put together with different well-known actors and well-known motivational speakers and things of that nature. So to stumble up on that situation where you have views like millions of views for your voice work is it's surreal. I'm very proud of it, and I'm able to use it, use it to my benefit as it relates to it just gives you it puts you at a different level of being a speaker, when you're able
Right.
to have that in your wheelhouse.
And how did you decide to get into speaking? Was it just after talking to so many people and helping people out that you figured you had something there with your speaking as well?
Man, it's a story. Let me tell you. Okay, so I'm in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm one of the original founding fathers of hip hop in Oklahoma. So I started rapping when nobody else was really rapping in Oklahoma,
Right.
and did a lot of things. Was the first one to be in stores, first one to be on the radio, a lot of things. Now they look at me, and it's two of us. I do the writing and do the rapping, and then there's a guy named Daryl, the Deekster, that makes the music. And so they look at us as legends of hip hop in Oklahoma. So what happened was, when we first got into it, early 90s, we were always saying something, but it was a little bit more street oriented. It was a little more, profane. And what happened was, we were putting out these albums. I had my own distribution network out, meaning I was selling music to stores all across the country, COD, cash on delivery. So I was building these relationships. Well, I gained custody of my kids. So I became a single father at age 26, and I had 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy, right? And so when I gained custody of my kids, my mindset changed. And so I kind of got I lost the love for the music, and I knew I had to get focused on being a father. So we stopped doing music for like 8 years. My kids got a little older, and they started getting into hip hop, and I really didn't like the hip hop they were getting into. So I called my bro D up, and I was like, D, why don't we go in and clean up some of our old songs? So they had profanity in them, but they had a message, and let's clean them up, because I never let my kids hear them. So let's clean up some of those old songs, and then we can create a new album. I can kind of have my kids go along with me on the journey. And I said, now when we get back into music, everything, we'll never use profanity again. It'll be clean. It'll be empowering, things of that nature. And so I was writing this rap, and I said, trying to get you to see right like an optometrist. And so when it hit me, I was like, oh, wow, 2020 vision. And so the thought process behind 2020 vision was, the younger you can see life clearer, the more successful you can be. Typically, they say in life, as you get older, you get wiser. So if you can bottle up that as a youth, what people get as they get older, you have a chance to see life clearer and you have a chance to be more successful. So that was the first thing that I did that kind of had me into it, in the motivational realm. And so when we released that 2020 Vision album, what I did was I started going into schools and I was using hip hop as the hook. And I was basically giving motivational talks through my
Hmm.
music and everything. And so that kind of started it. And then someone sent me a video of E.T. Eric Thomas. And so I'm watching it. I was always into Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Dennis Waitley and people like that. But when I saw E.T., I realized that he was doing a weekly series called Thank God It's Monday. Every Monday, he released a video. And so I just happened to be writing a new song. And I said, kick it with your boys like a sensei. And I was trying to think what rhymes with sensei. And then it hit me like Wednesday. But at the time, I was thinking like the day of the week. And I was like, nah, that wouldn't be cool to rhyme with it. It rhymes, but it doesn't make sense. And then I said it again slow. I was like, Wednesday. And I was like, oh, WINS, like winning every day. Now that would be cool. And so I said, kick it with your boys like a sensei, climb the hump, and make every day a Wednesday. And so when I said that to myself, I was like, boom, that's it. He does videos every Monday. How about I start doing videos every Wednesday to help people get over the hump of their life, for that. And that was 4 years ago. And I just
Right.
started doing make every day a Wednesday videos. And that just kind of led me to everything that's happened to me up to this point. I got to meet Eric Thomas. I got to be an Eric Thomas certified speaker, got to travel some with Eric Thomas. So it's been just crazy. But it all started from hip hop and just wanting to add value and leave this place a little bit better than I found it. So
Yeah,
that's the story.
that's really interesting where the Wednesday name came from too. Because once I saw it written out like that, I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And then
Yeah.
you just now you're a published author with
Yes,
the
sir.
book of the same name.
Yes, sir.
And I gotta say, you have been the most enjoyable to research because you put your life stories into your songs.
Yes,
And I
sir.
want to
Yes,
know,
sir.
how therapeutic is that for you to just release all that stuff that's been inside, even if it's in song form, and then not have to worry about it on your conscience anymore.
Oh, let me tell you, man, that's one of my big teaching points. My big thing is self-love and trying to get people to understand the power of positive releases. We all have things that we go through. I always say this, every one of our lives comes with its own set of built-in problems. You were going to get these problems no matter what. These were just designed from God, from the universe. And then we go and do silly things and add to those problems.
Hmm.
And so you have things that you feel that you keep buried inside. And you have to find a way to release them to the universe. And a lot of times that's what gets people to turn into drugs and alcohol and abuse and things of that nature. For me, I teach people, listen, you have to know what your positive release is. For me, it was hip hop. It was writing. Started this way back in the day. If you heard any of my songs from the early 90s, I was writing my story. I was telling my
Mm.
story. And I still do that to this day. It was very therapeutic. When you read my book, I talk about the things that I talk about that I've been talking about in my music. Like I have a song called Love Don't Live Here No More. I wrote it in 1992, and it talks about me growing up with my with an abusive stepmom. Talks about my mom dying when I was 4 years old. It talks about my dad and how he took me in, but he was still moving around doing a whole bunch of stuff, and he had to bring this lady in to help raise me. And I say, I guess I had it bad from the giddy up. Short-handed young black male brought into this world where they steady telling me I'm gonna fail. Lost in the game at the age of 4. Can't understand why my moms ain't around no more. Trying to come to grips with that drama. Why is everybody taking turns crying over my mama? Now it's me and Pops as a team. But Papa was a rolling stone, know what I mean? So I couldn't get that love that they say I need, black and unstable. How can I really succeed? I'm doing kind of bad on the home front. Just to get away, I grab a 40 and puff a blunt. Because that's what the OGs do. I'm 13 and good. I can't fade junior high school, hanging in the streets all night like I'm grown. But I'm feeling love, and ain't no love at home. Got a stepmama that I want to smoke, treat me like dirt, cause my pop's on the go, in and out when she gone. Ain't no telling when he gone, ain't no telling how she act. And come to find out, my stepmom smoking crack, searching for the good, but the good be laying low. And where I kick it at, negative is all we know. So send a gang of social workers out to my crib. But I'm telling you now, ain't no love where a player like me live. And so that's basically it's kind of like for that verse right there, right? It's telling
Mm-hmm.
it's telling a lot of my story, but it's also infusing the story of a lot of kids that grow up in the inner city, that grow up in poverty, that grow up in the ghetto. And so what I was able to tap into, and a lot of people would tell me when they heard some of my songs was I was speaking my story, but it was their story too. And so a
Yeah.
lot of people could feel it. And so you bring that into present day. And so when I got back into hip hop, it was like, okay, it's still the same premise. And so that's how I was able to take those songs like that originally had profanity and clean them up because they always had a powerful story and they always had a powerful message. So for that particular song, it's called Love Don't Live Here No More, right? But there's another verse, a second verse, I go into explain kind of why we feel the way we feel in the inner cities and how things that happen in our lives affect change. So basically, I had this real good friend in the song, and I go over to see him one day, and when I go over there, it's police and ambulance all over the place, and he had got shot and killed. And so I was headed down that same path. And then when that happened, it changed my whole mindset and mentality. And so I said it's time to make a change. And so I changed in that song and found a way to love me. Because what I was really saying was, if I don't love me, it would be impossible for me to love you. And a lot of kids, a lot of inner city kids, they grow up so hard. They don't love themselves. That's why it's so easy for them to commit crimes and commit murder and things of that nature. Because if they don't love themselves, it's impossible for them to love somebody else.
Yeah. And Raspberry Rock Off Grid Crabbing is saying, looks like you got some bopping music, and he can't wait to hear some more.
Oh,
He got he got some really good beats, like the guy you got working with you, Deeksta, man. Like some of my favorite songs were Warren G and all that stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I met him at a store and had him sign something and stuff. So
Really? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I always enjoyed those beats more. So like the G Funk stuff when you have those G
Yeah.
Funk Sundays and all that
Yes,
stuff.
sir.
That's
Yes,
good
sir.
stuff. Um,
So we had
who's
fun with that.
who's some people that you were influenced by when you started out in hip hop?
Oh man, the first and foremost was Run DMC. Run DMC changed my whole life. They I was really into all kinds of music and I was really into sports. And man, I was up late one night at home, probably should have my butt in the bed. And one of the very few channels we had was there was a show that came on called Night Tracks.
Mm,
And probably the first hip hop video they ever played was from Run DMC, and it was called Rock Box. And when I saw that video, it changed my life. Oh, you suck MC's perpetrating the fraud. And so, man, I went to my dad and said, man, would you give me some music equipment? And he's like, but you play basketball. I said, I'm short though. He said, but you play football. I'm short though. When they hit, it hurt. And so he bought me some music equipment, man. And I just started rewriting Run DMC raps. They were the king of
mm,
rock. I was the king of rap. Whatever they did, I was just rewriting their raps. And so by the time I got to high school, I was heavily influenced by Run MC and LL Cool J and different people like that. But I was really into music, but I was shy. I was introverted. I hadn't found a way to even if a teacher asked me to speak in class, I was reluctant. If I had an option to not speak, I wouldn't speak, and I would always speak very low and things like that. I used to get bullied. Used to get bullied at home by my stepmom. Used to get bullied on the streets by up and coming gang members. You know what I mean?
right.
But but hip hop, man, it just brung me out of all that, man. I had a guy named Ernest Walker. We had a talent show at our school, ninth grade year. And man, he just was like, man, he said, I know you got equipment. I know you writing raps. Why don't you be in this talent show with me? I was like, bro, you mean get up in front of people? I said, no, I write, but I write for myself. I'm not getting up in front of people.
Right.
And I tell people all the time, it's amazing when someone believes in you more than you believe in yourself. And this guy was like, man, he was just pushing me. You can do it, man. Come on, man. Come on. You can do it with me. I don't want to get up there by myself. I was like, dude, that's a hard pass. That's a hard no. I'm not getting in front of people. Even though deep down inside I really wanted to, but I just hadn't overcome that shyness and that fear. And
Right.
This guy came on my house for the next 14 days straight. I kid you not, knocking on my door, asking me to be in a talent show. And I was like, nope, 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 nope. Day 14, I guess he wore me down. It's like, stop acting like a little old punk and be in the show. I said, punk? Nobody's punk. And I was like, I'll do it. Before I do it, I said, I'll do it. I was like, oh, God. I mean, I committed, and I was trying to talk myself, telling myself how much I couldn't do it. And then all of a sudden, something hit me. I was like, stop trying to talk yourself out of it and talk yourself into it. You can do it. And I started changing my negative self-talk into positive self-talk. And that's why I tell people, whenever those negative voices and negative demons and negative thoughts enter your brain, shut it down. You had the power to shut it down. And that's what I had to do. Even at a young age, I shut it down. And I started telling myself why I knew I could. And I knew I could. And I started getting in the mirror and I started practicing. And I said, you know what? I'm not rewriting other people's raps no more. I'm gonna write my own rap. And that was the first time I started writing my own verses, and I started believing in me. And and then got up, and it wasn't even a talent show, it was just a tryouts. There was 20 people out there. Seemed like 20,000 though. And I got up there and put my beat on, and I said a deep breath and call me Mr. Chiller, don't call me at all. My little skinny voice. When I'm on the mic, I'm standing tall. I was 16, 15, 16. But let me tell you, it was liberating. My life changed that day. It's something man, the euphoria, the feeling it's like everything was different. All the shyness went away, all the confidence came, my personality erupted. All of a sudden, people started knowing who I were. I stopped getting bullied. Hip hop, and I write in the song, one of my newest songs, Hip Hop Saved My Life. That's how I look at it. I stopped getting bullied. I started having confidence. It changed me. And that's why I tell people, positive releases, know what your go-to is when you in that moment where you feel like quitting, when you feel like giving up, when you feel down and out. Figure out what you need to do positively to release that negative tension and release all of that to the atmosphere, because the universe can feed it and they want it. And I promise you, when you start doing that, it'll come back to you in a powerful way. You'll be amazed. And that's how much hip hop has helped me. So Run DMC, LL, Ice Cube from NWA heavily influenced me. So it's been a few influences.
And I always enjoyed, because I think Run DMC, when they did the crossover with Aerosmith with Walk This Way, that was the first exposure I ever had to rap music at all. And then I started getting into it, and I remember watching Waiting to Stay Up Late, and for I think it was the premiere of Dre Day. That video that came out on MTV, waiting for that one.
Oh man, let me tell you my Dr. Dre story. It's gonna blow your mind.
All right.
So in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was a legendary studio called Studio 10, right? I was one of the engineers of Studio 10 when I was real young. There was this guy named Delmar Arnold. He was a few years younger than us. And he used to be one of the guy that owned the studio, actually was managing Delmar and this guy named, I can't remember the other guy's name. He was managing him. He was managing a guy named Lightfoot. We all worked out of Studio 10. Delmar really looked up to us because we still were, Player 1000 DC. We still were doing stuff and we were releasing stuff. And well, Delmar was telling us that he was working with Dr. Dre. Now, this is before the Chronic album came out. Snoop Dogg, he's like, Snoop Dogg is my first cousin. I'm going back and forth to LA, working with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. We're like, whatever. It's no way you're working with Dr. Dre. Stop telling us these stories.
Right.
And he's like, I'm telling you. Now, along the way, he's still in Tulsa. His mom lived in Tulsa, but they were originally from California. And so he's telling us these stories, and he's telling us that this is going to happen, and then all of a sudden it would happen, and then this was going to happen, all of a sudden it was going to happen. Well, of course, like you said, waiting up for the Dre Day video. Well, we were waiting up for the G Thing video, the very first one. Ain't nothing but a G Thing. And it was like, yeah, we're going to world premiere the debut of Ain't Nothing But a G Thing from Dr. Dre, and all of us are glued to the TV. The first person that comes trotting down the steps is Delmar in the video. And we're like, oh my God. You know what I mean? That was the first time we really believed, we were just blown away. Come to find out, he was Daz Dillinger, and so he was in the Dog Pound. Him, Corrupt were the Dog Pound. Snoop Dogg really was his first cousin. He wrote the song. He produced songs for Tupac. This dude was right in our studio, and it was just like unreal. It was like, get out of here, man. So he was really connected to Dre and Snoop. It was just unreal. And then the other guy, Lightfoot, who was in Studio 10. I run into him at Valley, so we produce songs for him and everything. He said, "Man, he said I got a movie coming out. I want you and D to come to the premiere. We're gonna premiere it in Tulsa." And we were just thinking it was some little, rinky-dink movie or whatever. Okay, cool. We're gonna come. So we come. It's a Warner Brothers movie, and it was the movie Indian in the Cupboard. And he was like the Indian in the movie, The Indian in the Cupboard, which is a big time classic movie. We were just blown away. It was like, get out of here. This is too real. It was crazy. So Studio 10, a lot of legendary people came out of that studio.
Man, is there
Crazy.
anybody? Is there anybody that you'd love to collaborate with musically that you haven't got to yet?
Who would I like to collaborate with? You know, where I'm at musically now, actually, it's so many well-known underground artists. This is one guy named Toby Nwigwe that is connected to Eric Thomas, who's really good. That I would love to do something with him. But of course, big name artists, you'd love to do something with Drake or somebody big like that. But I've been blessed to perform with, be on stage with Ice Cube and be on stage with Too Short and E40 and Two Chains and some of the bigger hip hop artists from in their prime. So I did some pretty cool things. Got to go perform overseas in Tokyo and Yokohama, and I did some pretty cool things in hip hop. And I'm doing some pretty cool things still with hip hop on my terms, and doing a lot of cool things with motivation and helping change lives, which is even more powerful to me.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, like, how has that helped your mental well-being, staying positive, being a speaker? Because I'm sure you get people that write and leave comments or send you messages or whatever, and you've helped them out. So if you're having a bad day, you're like, I'm not really that bad off if I'm still helping people out.
That's the big thing with it, because when you do what I do, and let me tell people, whenever you decide to go to another level or put yourself in a position for to go to another level, or for things to happen that you never could believe happen, like when you said, I'm on voiceover videos with millions and millions of views. You have to be crazy with it. You have to do things that other people won't do. And so for the last 4 years, I've released a video every Wednesday, and that's being crazy with it, because there are weeks and days that I don't feel like recording a video. And that's when I get that message in the inbox, like, you know what, this video really touched my soul. This really helped me. It really helped me get through some difficult times. Or you had that conversation with somebody and they achieved that breakthrough. Or there was one time on Instagram, somebody reached out to me and they never expect you to reply back. I try to reply back to as many as I can. Well, this was a youngster, and he was just talking about how he was depressed and suicidal. And so I spoke words of life into him, and he hit me and he messaged me back and he said, "Man, you don't realize how much," he said, "you just saved my life." He said, "I had the knife at my throat, about to cut myself." And he said, "I never looked at it the way that you said it." And so when things like that happen, those are the things that push me to do it anyway, even when I don't feel like doing it. Like today, I got to finish editing the Wednesday video. And sometimes, like, again, you don't feel like doing it, but it's conversations like that, and you touching people's lives, and it's for some. It's not for everybody, but there are
Mhm.
people who need the things that I'm doing. People who need what you're doing, and I think that's what keeps us going to do it, even when we don't feel like doing it. Yeah, so it definitely
Yeah,
changed my life too.
yeah. And when you say getting crazy with it, I do this like 5-6 days a week. So
Oh yeah, that's
I,
being crazy with it for sure.
yeah, because it being there myself, where I almost gave up it and tried to before.
Really
um yeah, and so I donate 20% of the stuff I make on YouTube to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline,
love it.
and it pushes me to do it more so that somebody can see this guy tried to give up and now he's living his dream of being here on YouTube talking to all these other people. And so if I don't give up now, maybe something can still turn around, and I don't have to give up. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Man, I love it, man. Because hey, I wrote this in a verse. I'm gonna say the verse too, but I'm gonna explain it to you first. It's just people want to know how you got through what you've been through, and when you pass all the tests that have come your way so far, because the more coming, then you have that testimony. And man, you don't realize, like for me or for you, there are people that are walking in the exact same steps. And when you can say, listen, I walked in those steps and it resonates with them, they're like, oh, that's where I'm at right now. They perk up and they listen hard. And you can say, listen, I got to the other side. You can get to the other side. You know, it is such
Yeah.
a powerful thing. And so I said, skipping to the money on some hopscotch was low level. Now we on some top notch. Topic trendsetter had to revamp. I was hiking with them slackers, had to break camp. Catch me on your campus chasing capital. Dropping daily diamond tips are practical. Tactical, my tactics always tactful, impactful, was bashful. Now the place is packed full, and it's me and D Davis on the main stage. Remember, we was broken in that pain stage, but chose to self-assess and got uncomfortable. Back in the days when I was irresponsible. Epiphany happened, call it God's work. Now life is like the lotto, watch them odds work in my favor cause I made the choice to transform. Lord had plans for them, made it through the sandstorm. They want to know how you got through what I've been through. Tell them I was sinful with swindle. Any soul that came in contact with my personal, but then I made that switch. And now my life is full and purposeful. They wonder why I say it's cause I got a why. And that's the reason why this Wally vet is still the guy. I'm guided by the principles of success, and plus my mama watching over, so I stay blessed. Life is what you make it, please believe me. Never have to work if it was easy. Roller coaster ride, leave you queasy. Karma come if you're living sleazy. And so I'll just kind of keep going on and on. But I
Yeah.
mean, they
Yeah.
want to know how you got through what you've been through, man. When you can overcome something, people will listen, man. And I appreciate your story and I appreciate everything you're doing because you are helping people, you're changing lives, man, and that's powerful.
Yeah. And that story of you, going with your dad and all that kind of stuff. My parents got divorced and I went with my dad and I lived the same kind of story. I was different location, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was poor my whole life, and so I same story
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
far as that kind of stuff goes. And so that's why even your music, I'm like I feel like I can talk to you and I just know because I've been through the same
Yes,
circumstances
sir.
before.
Yes, sir, man. We overcomers, man. We survivors. We're
Yeah.
unbreakable. We're unbreakable. And some people, I had a conversation with D yesterday, and we were just talking about, that will. Some people have will, and some people quit. And it's people like me and you that try to push people to never quit and remind people that you are somebody, you are worthy, you are enough, and you're unbreakable. Life cannot break you unless you allow life to break you. And
Yeah.
we're living proof, both of us, man. We've been through some stuff, man, and we
Yeah.
overcame. So you got to grow through what you go through. Never forget that.
Yeah. And mind over the matter thing, I just had a realization yesterday. There's an experiment you've probably all had in your life where you either went to pick up something and it was heavier or lighter than you thought it was going to be, or something tasted different, and your mind had already thought it was going to be something else and adjusted for it. So that's a
Mm,
mind over matter experiment right there in real life. If you don't
wow,
think your mind can help you get through stuff.
wow, wow. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Definitely powerful.
Um, how would you say it is being on stage, doing speaking versus doing the music? Is it more automatic in the music and it's a little more dynamic speaking because you can the crowd maybe is adjusting to uh, different either words or things you're using?
Well, the difference between like with hip hop, I mean, that's just man, we love being on stage, and a lot of times people are very familiar with your songs when you're performing in front of certain groups of people, so they can sing your songs along with you. And there's just a different type of energy because it's all about the music then. And so we love performing because it's energy. And speaking is different. It's definitely different for me because I use hip hop when I'm speaking, so it's a different experience for anybody. I'm talking to suits where I might not when I'm hip hop performing, I'm not really performing to suits. But there's times
Hmm.
when I'm speaking to people in suits, and I'm still using this hip hop, and it's more mesmerizing to them than it's kind of like, wow, I've never seen anything done like this because I'll take like I'll take a 16 bar rap and that'll be an hour keynote. And so just to give you an example, I may say something, Last one I did is I used this. It's a song called "Believe in You." I just released a video on, but I said tapped into my wildest dreams of being great.
Hmm.
Demons threw they hook. I almost took the bait. Was hungry for success but couldn't get a plate. I wish for greatness early, but my genie only granted late. And I might stop right there, and I may say something like, "Listen, all of us in life, we want success and we want it right now. We're in this society of everything's happening quick, and we're impatient, but we don't understand that life." And I'll say, all of our lives come with its own set of built-in problems. So just because you're not being successful now doesn't mean you can't work and grind and put yourself in a position to be successful later. For me, I wanted it early, but I wasn't in the right mindset. I wasn't in the right mind for, and I'll speak and I'll jump back into it. So I'll say, my genie only granted late. Mama's sick. Doctor's diagnosis faulty. Prescriptions mess the kidneys up. That still haunts me. And so I'll get to another place and I'll stomp and I'll start teaching on that point. And I'll get to and I'll jump back into the verse and I'll go all the way through the verse. You know what I mean? And an hour later, you had this whole keynote that all makes sense, and it helps people overcome whatever they're feeling and whatever they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always love the stories, like behind how some songs like came to be. Is there sometimes where you're just walking around the house and you'll have like a beat come in your head, or just a verse come out of nowhere?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, hey, you know what happens the most, Bob? When I'm asleep, and it'll be 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I gotta get up. I gotta write that down. And it might not even just be hip hop. It might be a meme. It might be a meme, or it might be a speech that I need to write. Ideas just hit you at random times. Like, oh, I gotta write that one down. I gotta write that one down. One that came to me that's one of my most favorite quotes. My own quotes is when I say, "Kill him with kindness and murder him with success." That's that
Mm.
message for the haters. You know what I mean? For the haters in your life, kill him with kindness. Everybody says that. Kill him with kindness, and then I add it, and then murder them with success. They hate to see you successful. They hate to see you growing. But yeah, no, it'll hit me an idea, man. It may be a hip hop lyric. It may be a meme. It may be a speech, and I got to get up and I got to feed it. I got to tap into it. I got to tap into it. Yeah, definitely. I love
Yeah.
being creative like that.
Because one of the things that I'd like to do one day is go back to the high school that I went to, because I barely graduated from there.
Yeah.
And I just learned as I've gotten older, and just learned that, oh, I had ADD, and if I would have had maybe a different study program, I would have probably done a lot better and all that kind of stuff. And I want to go back there and say, hey, if you're not doing good in high school, that doesn't mean you still can't do good in life later on.
Right, for sure. For
You don't
sure.
have to give up and settle for mediocre life because the grades that you have right now.
It's pretty cool because I got to go like in our community of Tulsa. The inner city is in North Tulsa, and so like I was telling you when I released that 2020 Vision album back and I released it in '07, so I probably went into the schools around '08, '09. But I got to go to mostly all of the inner city schools I even went to, like you said, and I got to have conversations with those students, and it was basically I would and I really didn't even charge. I said you can do a donation, so it was really me just going in there pro bono on my own dime, and renting equipment and doing all that, just giving back. And when I got to that moment, I just started from '07. Since '07, I've been doing a lot of giving back. I don't charge a lot of money to go speak, especially at schools and things of that nature. I try to go on my own dime and just pour value into it. As a matter of fact, my business is, I host a business called Court Time. I have a business called Court Time Events, and I host youth basketball tournaments. And I do what is called a success series, student athlete success series. And I bring in students and in between their games, and I feed them and I pour life into them. And we have conversations, and I'll speak, and I'll have guest speakers come, and we just add value to their lives, and hopefully something that we say resonates with them and helps them later on down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever? How long have you been doing that for?
With the tournaments,
Yeah.
for 10 years.
So
10 years.
have you had any students that went on and were touched by that and successful and came back to you and said, hey,
Yeah, it's funny because
thank you for having that.
a lot of those students, the students that I see, I'll see them now that I went and spoke to their school, and I may not even recognize them. And it's like, you know what? I remember you came to our school, and some of the stuff that you said still sticks with me to this day. So yeah, that happens. It does. Pretty cool.
Yeah, the one that sticks with me, I have like a couple of things. I had a woodshop teacher that taught me how to properly use tools. He was in his 60s. He said, "I still have all my fingers, so
Oh wow.
I'm going to tell you a rule that I use, and I still have all mine." So I'm like, "All
Oh
right, I'll
man,
listen to that." And
that's
then
smart.
sixth grade teacher, her name was Mrs. Bliss.
Mm,
So, name like Bliss, you should listen. But
right.
there was a thing on the top of the wall, and this was right after my parents got divorced, and she had "Survive" cut out in
Mm.
camo
Camouflage.
fabric.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was her last year teaching there, and so she, at the end of the year, she ripped it down, and I got the E, and I kept that forever. I'm like,
Wow.
as something just to remember. And I'm like, if you want to be happy, you have to be able to survive. Is the way I put it together.
I love it. And you know what's so funny is as teachers and people who teach, and not necessarily in a classroom, but you never know how, you never know what, if your voice is going to be the voice of change for a person. And that's all we are, as humans are doing, is we're seeking to have the right voice that really resonates with us, because our parents, we as parents, or our parents to us, we hear their voices all the time, and so you very seldom really hear what they're saying. You hear it later on, but it's hard to hear it. But somebody's saying the exact same thing somewhere else. Maybe it be a coach, maybe it be a speaker that comes and speak to you, maybe it be a teacher. At some point you may hear it and it resonates and it changes you, like seemingly like that. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're looking for, that voice of change where it's like, oh, now it all makes sense. I get it. So it could be you, Bob. It could be me. We don't know. Right now, somebody listening, they may hear your voice, they may hear my voice, and whatever they're dealing with that never made sense, all of a sudden now it makes sense. And they start that road to recovery, and they start that
Mm-hmm.
road to change. And it's because we put ourselves out here to pour hope and to pour life into people.
Yeah, and I went from being for years, and it's weird to think about this now, but I went from being years so upset at everything that happened in my life and all the stuff that happened. And now I'm like, no, I'm happy all that happened because look at what I'm able to do with it.
Oh man,
If I
yeah.
wouldn't have had, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this. And it's it's amazing to see it put to use and make you go, yeah, I guess God has a plan for everything, even if it's bad at the time.
That's the truth. It's so funny you say that, because the Deeks that I talk about, like, we've been best friends for a long, long time, and we've been in the group together for a long, long time. But we're totally different people. Like, in my book, I say, I did a video and I talk about how we're from basically two different lives, two different worlds, right? And we
Mm.
both grew up in the hood. Don't get me wrong, but he was always by the book. To this day, he doesn't have any children. He went to work for UPS, still works for UPS. Credit was always good. Pretty much did everything by the book. So his ride from his early 20s to where we're at now was smooth. You know what I mean? It was a smooth ride. My
Mm-hmm.
right, mine was bumpy. You know, had 4 babies out of wedlock by the same chick. Sold crack cocaine. I was broke. Single father. Just all kind of stuff that I went through. And I said, if I had to go back, if I was if I was to say, hey, which should you take, my route or D's route? I'm gonna say, hey, take D's route. But
Mm-hmm.
I know that most people don't take D's route. That most of them take my route. And so that's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm do the motivational things that I do, because people are people and we make mistakes and we have to find a way to overcome our mistakes. And so it's interesting that you said that. There are very few things that I would change myself, because you need all of them to be the person that you are today.
Yeah, it's a lot of people in here travel. I'd put it's taking the scenic route of life, and you have a lot more memories taking the scenic route than you do taking the commuting route every day.
Oh my God, you're right. You're right. It's a lot more interesting, that's for sure. I look back and tell my kids now, they're older now, and I'm like, I don't know how we made it through, but we did.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
made it through.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's it's interesting to look back on all that, and then like you're saying, the words that you say, you don't know, they could be just offhand comment, and you don't know what impact those could have. Because I've talked to a few different people that started their business already, and it was one person saying, "Hey, that's a really good product that you made," or "That's a really good idea," that made
Mm-hmm.
them think of turning it into a business where they
Yeah,
may have never done that at all, and now their life's completely different than what it would have been.
man, that's so true. And you just don't know how you're affecting people. I remember, me and D, we were producing this group out of Kansas City. They were coming here because they really liked the music, so they paid us to make music for them. But they had this one female singer. I don't even remember what her name was. And it was so this is how you affect change indirectly. You don't even realize it. You know, so she was singing in the booth, and we would teach it. She wasn't singing it right, and so I was really trying to coach her in a positive way. But I kept calling her Suge. I was like, "Come on, Suge, you can do it, Suge." That wasn't her name. That was just I just called. I was just calling. I would call female Suge back then, just like sugar.
Right,
And
right.
so I just kept calling her that, right? And I ain't even thinking nothing of it. I just but they came back down several months later, and they were all calling her Suge. And I was like, "Why do y'all call her Suge?" They was like, "Player, when she was down here last time, she was in the booth, and you just kept calling her Suge." And so we just started calling her Suge. So that became her nickname. And I'm
Oh
just like,
man.
it's so funny because you just never know when you're affecting change. Even something as simple as that, it works the same way in real life. You can say something offhand, or you can do something and it can resonate an idea with somebody, or you never know. Next thing you know, they're doing it and be like, "Where you got that from?" "Well, you didn't realize when I was here last time, you were doing such and such, and it gave me the idea to do that. So we
Mhm.
affect change, man, indirectly sometimes.
Yeah, and I was one of the people that used to listen to um, like motivational messages and all that kind of stuff, and think, "Oh, that doesn't work," whatever. And I had to learn that, like you're saying, I had to love myself and not be in a negative mindset in order to be able to hear the messages the
Yes.
correct way and take them in for what they are.
Definitely. Well, people ask me too, what's the key? How do I start? So many people realize the good thing is realizing that they don't really love themselves. They've been pouring so much of who they are into other people, they don't even recognize who they are. And so they'll ask me, what are some things I can do to start changing it? I said, first and foremost, you have to submerge yourself into self love motivation. I mean, I was talking to a young lady and I was like, "Well, what do you spend your time listening to?" And she was like, "Well, I spend listening to, modern hip hop." I said, "Well, think about it. I'm not telling you not to listen to modern hip hop, but I want you to start analyzing what message you're feeding and pointing to your brain over and over again." I said, if you're not spending any time listening to anything that's reminding you of how worthy you are and how much you should love yourself and how, you are enough, then you're never receiving that. All you're listening to is things that are telling you things that are very unproductive for your life, where you're at now, you know. And so I said, just have a balance. And I say, submerge yourself in things that are going to feed your soul the nutrition that you need to change. A lot of times you may go to a doctor, and don't get me wrong, sometimes people have chemical imbalances and they really do need medicine. This is not the point. But when you haven't took a moment to try to correct the issues yourself by changing your lifestyle, then you can't be real clear, because sometimes you may go to a doctor and they just want to feed medicine to you and give you pills, but you can actually help the process by starting to submerge yourself in more positivity. You got control over what you listen to, what you read, what you watch. Spend a little bit more time with things that are feeding into your soul the right
Mhm.
nutrition to help you feel better about yourself. That's where it'll start there.
Well, it's the old saying, "You are what you eat." So if you feed
Oh,
your brain positive stuff, you're going to start getting a positive brain out of it.
and people, they
And
don't understand it. That's true.
yeah, and the one that finally broke through, and it was because I think it was just hearing his story throughout the whole speech was um, Les Brown, one where he said, "It's not impossible, it's I'm possible."
Oh
And
man,
listening to him
wow.
talk that one, that's the one that finally was like, okay, this guy, started out from doing this and just kept grinding at it, and look at him now. So maybe I should listen to what he's saying.
Les Brown is, man, Les Brown. It's so funny. You keep bringing up these names, and I have stories. My Les Brown story. Les Brown is phenomenal, by the way, though. I mean, he's gifted, and he's operating in his gift, and he's changed a lot of lives. Very, very talented. So when me and D, we were in New Orleans. We was at a hip hop convention called Black Radio Exclusive, real big convention. And so we had a guy that wanted to manage us. And so he put us up in a high-end hotel, 5-star hotel down there. And we were going to the convention. And so we just decided we were going to go work out. And when we went down to the workout facility, none other than the legendary R&B singer Gladys Knight was in the workout facility working out. Gladys Knight and the Pips. And so we just started having this phenomenal conversation with her.
Oh, that's not good. Oh, he froze up on me. Oh, man. Right during a Gladys Knight story. That's not cool. Oh. Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you can get back in here. Oh, man. Oh. And yes, Simple Life Reclaimed. Yes, feed your mind positivity and feed your soul. That's all right. It's all right. It happens, guys. It happens, guys. And if nothing else, right? We got a good let's pop them back in here. There we go.
Oh, what happened there?
All right. Froze up.
You.
I was gonna say it was right during the Gladys Knight story.
I know. But yeah, so we run into Gladys Knight, right? And man, we have this phenomenal conversation with her, and she was just so impressed by, us, and we were young, and she was just like, she was married to Les Brown at the time. And she was there because, of course, she's a legendary R&B, but he was doing a seminar at the conference. And she invited us. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna give you tickets you guys can come see Les Brown and all of that." And the timing didn't work because we were scheduled to perform at a certain time. But it's just, I didn't realize, I was aware of Les Brown at the time, but I don't know him like I know him now. You know what I mean? I'm familiar with him very well now, but I wasn't as much back then. But it's just funny that when I think of Les Brown, I always think of Gladys Knight, and that's my sister. We had a phenomenal conversation,
That's amazing. And I look back on my life and just different people I met that I wouldn't have met had I not went out this one night, or like just friends that I've known forever, or had I not decided not to go meet this person or that person.
Yeah, that's true.
And just completely change your life in a moment. And so you have to look at the future like that too. What are you choosing in the moment that can have a butterfly effect into the future?
Very true. Very true. Yeah, so that was a cool moment with Gladys Knight. Just, I mean, for her to be so legendary, we get to share some space with her and pick her brain a little bit. Very, very great conversation. Great conversation. But she was married to Les Brown at the time, so I thought that was interesting. Especially now that that I'm so familiar with Les Brown, because you got to be hungry. He's a bad boy. He's a bad boy.
And Eric Thomas, you met, he's got some good ones as well.
Oh, he's anointed, man. He's just ET, and he's such a cool dude. I mean, he's so cool. He wants to try to help everybody, and he's such a, he's like one of the number one motivational speakers in the world. And so you can't help everybody because it's too many. But I was with Eric Thomas just last year in Las Vegas at the Thrive convention, and you talk about a rock star. I'm right there with him, and we walking, and we got 4 bodyguards around us, and just everybody trying to get at him and just telling him how much he changed their lives. And I'm backstage with all these big name Trent Shelton, all these big name speakers, and I'm just there, because I'm shadowing Eric Thomas, and I had to pinch myself. I'm like, and he's on stage and just just tearing the stage up, and I'm just like in the backstage with all these other big name speakers, and I'm just like I'm in the mix. I'm like I'm really in this mix. This is crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like his guest. I'm like the guest of Eric Thomas at this event. That's unreal,
Yeah.
unreal.
And Len the Okie, who's your neighbor there in Oklahoma, wants to know if you're around North Tulsa area.
Yeah. That's where I grew up, born and raised. My father still lives in North Tulsa. I shoot a lot of videos there. I shot a video at Berry Park a couple of weeks ago. You know,
Is that where you did the Sunday afternoon one too?
I did Sunday afternoon at O'Brien Park.
Oh,
that was
O'Brien
back in
Park.
North
Okay.
Tulsa too. Yeah,
Okay.
and it was in a little. We shot it at uh, a little burger joint called a Freeze. It used to be called Tasty Freeze. So yeah, no, I'm everything. I live for North Tulsa. I'm the heart and soul of North Tulsa. Yeah.
Are the music videos fun to shoot?
Oh man, that's super fun. I mean, it's just especially now because we have so much control over them. You know, we record. I have a guy named Steven Jones. He's a guru when it comes to video, and he taught me how to edit, and he has top-notch equipment, and so we shoot some with him, some we shoot ourselves. So we just get to be super creative. We just shot one that's coming out Sunday. It's called Oh No, and we just did some pretty cool stuff with it too.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm really glad I came across your stuff and your songs because they help pick me up and have more positive stuff to listen to.
Yeah. There's
And
very few hip hop songs that you can get that are clean, that are just basically gonna be empowering. The Oh No song was just basically when people try to stop you every time, you're like, oh no, you're not gonna stop me. I'm gonna keep going. So we got some powerful stuff coming out though. Some powerful. Oh, we have. Matter of fact, when I have a song, and it's called. We'll definitely connect. And I may come back on when I release this video.
Yeah.
It's called Mojo Back. It's called
Okay.
Mojo Back, and it's basically talking about a person who is trying to commit suicide. It's like they had these suicidal thoughts for so long, and this is the powerful part of the song. It's like, so this guy, he made a decision he was going to commit suicide, and so he was going to do it in his car. It hit him when he was in his car, and so he's driving. He's like I'm done, and he just starts speeding up, right? He calling people, talking to his brother. His brother can sense something is not right, and it's like, dude, don't do nothing. I'm okay. Don't worry about it. He calls his preacher and asks him to pray for him, but he made a decision he was going to die, and so he's basically speeding on this highway, just getting ready to go off this cliff. And the more as he's speeding, getting closer and closer to the cliff, his car just starts slowing down, and it comes to a complete stop. He ran out of gas.
Wow.
And in the song, it hit him in that moment, you know, everything flashed in his life. And all of a sudden he started realizing what he had to live for. And he started using his story as a testimony. So the song is called Mojo Back. And it's like his guys went through all this. And he's like, I know I ain't right. I got to find a way to get my mojo back. Everything ain't right. So when we released that video, I'm definitely going to come back on it because it's all about. And at the end, we have a PSA, you know, hey, if you're going through something, please don't hesitate to reach out and get some help. And I'll make sure that I have this National Suicide Prevention line in the video, probably throughout the whole video. So it's just, man, that one needs to go. It's a powerful song. And so we have songs like that. So I kind of moved out of the G-Funk. I wanted to do G-Funk because I had a few of our classic G-Funk people reach out to me. So I wanted to do like 7 or 8 G-Funk songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're just doing music, and we have just from this album we did that was called The Push Through. The album is called The Push Through. And we just releasing song by song before we release the full album. But it's some powerful stuff on there. We have one called One More, and it's just like, you know, give one more try and take one more chance and things like that. Some powerful songs coming out, man. So I'll let you know when that Mojo Back comes out. I'll reach out to you and we'll make sure we connect with the right people for it. It needs to be heard by a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll man, anytime you want to come back on, I'll be on for sure.
Perfect.
Because everybody here has been enjoying hearing you. Gracie Seeking Adventure says this is the first time I'd rather watch this than the Today Show. That's how awesome this interview is. So
hey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, it's having songs like that and messages like that are really important here, because music can, at least for me, has always affected my emotions more than anything else. You can turn
Yeah,
on a certain song, get hyped up, or
definitely.
sad or whatever. And one of my friends, Reno Biz, he did a song called Guardian Angel, about a guy
Mm,
that takes his own life after he talks with his guardian angel and says, hey, why didn't you help me out during all this time? And the guardian angel talks back and says, don't you remember when I kept you out of trouble from this, and I kept you out of
mm,
this trouble, and I kept you out of that trouble?
mm.
So yeah,
So it's amazing you say that, because that's how I look at my mom. I always think of my mom as my guardian angel, because there was so many situations that could have went differently. That, especially, I tell people this all the time. I used to sell drugs. I mean, I'm not proud of it. I always said I never would. I was just happened to be, again, I was from the hood, and most of the people that I knew at the time, it was early on. Crack hit our town back in like 1986. So I was 16 years old, and we were in this group. I was in this group called DC Boys, right? And me and D, and it was two other members. The other two members were a year older than us. So our senior year, they had graduated. Well, all of a sudden, they started coming over to the house when we would practice, and they would have money, like large sums of money, thousands of dollars. We're like, where are y'all getting all this money from? And back then, there was no shame. It was we selling crack. And we were like, y'all crazy. And so
mhm,
fast forward, you connected to these guys because they're part of your group, and you connected to other guys. And I want to again start having these babies, and my kid's mom lived in the projects, so it was all kind of drug activity going on in the projects. And so someone approached me. I was like, I know you're not really about selling drugs or whatever, but people I've been trying to get connected with to sell drugs. So if you can just get it and give it to me, I'll sell it and I'll bring you back your cut. And reluctantly, I finally did it. I finally broke because I had a baby. I didn't have no money. I was broke. I was, my book is called it's called that chapter is called Young and Reckless. And I was mentally broke and reckless.
mhm,
And so he started. I would do that. I would get it from somebody. I would give it to him. I was the middleman and working on consignment. And for a while, he was doing good. He was bringing me back exactly what I needed. I was paying him, but all of a sudden, he broke the number one rule: don't get high off your own supply. He started
yeah,
smoking crack cocaine, and so I couldn't keep giving it to him because he was starting to come up short. So I reluctantly started trying to sell it myself. And just so you guys know, I was officially the worst drug dealer in the history of drug dealing. Okay. Because I was scared. It's nothing worse than a scary drug dealer. And I was scared. And so we started going to a different project. Long story short, me and the guy who was selling drugs at that house, we left and went somewhere. We left my girl and his girl there. He had a lot of drugs there. I had very little. They kicked in his door while we were gone. There was a rumor at the time that if a female put the drugs on her, they wouldn't search her. My kid's mom put the drugs on her. They did search her. They found all of his. She had my little bit up in her bra, so they didn't find it at the time. When she got to Tulsa County, they found it. They threw that out. They knew she wasn't selling it. They put all the charges on him. My name never came up. He went to the penitentiary. That's how close I was. That's why I say mom had to be, that was my guardian angel. She had to reach down and touch me because I was in that mix and my name never came up. And of course, again, like I said, they dropped all the charges on her. She was pregnant with our second kid. And so needless to say, I never sold drugs again after that. But that's how close I was to probably going to jail, you know?
yeah,
And so little things like that would happen all the time. And I was like, I always felt like she reached down and made sure I was okay. It's my guardian angel. And so, I write that stuff. I talk about that. And then that song Mojo back I was talking about, I talk about the voices that people hear. And you hear, they always say I'm hearing voices in my head. And so this guy is hearing voices in his head, you know what I mean? And so he just had to find a way to try to overcome it. And he really couldn't. And then even in the song, it's powerful because in the song he didn't know why that had happened. And so you hear a voice that says, basically it's the voice of the Lord, and he
yeah,
said, I'm not done with you yet. You can't kill yourself. I'm not done with you yet. And
yeah,
in that moment, it all come back. It all, you know, he's married, he has kids. It all he was reminded of why he has to stay here, and so
Yeah.
it's just, man, I can't wait to do the video for that one. It's
Oh man, I can't wait to see it and have you back on again, for sure. Oh man, he froze up again. Oh, it's all right. It was near at the end of the show, anyways. So, if you guys want to head on over to Roy and Becky's Travels, I'm gonna go ahead and play the outro video. And I got a video that's going to come out here in about 3 minutes. You guys can watch whenever you want about the new plan that I've got going on. So head on over there, Roy and Becky's, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Later, guys. Stop waiting for life to happen and make it happen.